being able to work with my daughter's schedule it's been a challenge. However, I love the challenge. And it's all about for me, about mastering my performance in every level of my life. And that's what I mean by I work with my clients on the level of performance, is because it's not about just athletic performance. It's about your life. When you're out in your life, you're playing a big game. And so that could be your household, it could be business, it could be your health, relationships. I mean, we're performing even in our own relationships. So that's where the performance piece comes in. So it was about 2.5 years ago. Believe it or not, I only knew Tony from seeing him in a movie like years ago. So, I mean, I knew his name, but I didn't know of him. And one day my husband come home and he's like, hey, because I guess he's been on Tony's email list and I didn't even know that. And he was learning about relationships, like how he could be a better man in our relationship. So that was really surprising for me. And he's like, hey, have you heard about that new movie with Tony Robbins in it? And I'm like, no. And he goes, yeah, the one he goes, it's like, I'm Not Your Guru or something. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. What's it about? He goes, I don't know, but let's watch it tonight together. And I was like, okay. So we had a couple of our sons come over, and that's when I was sitting there. Oh my gosh, it was like spirit moved me. I was so moved by the way he was working with his audience and the kind of impact and the size of the impact that he was having in the lives of people on our planet. And I was just so moved by that. And I could see where a lot of my training and development came from. He was practicing. And then as I started to learn more over time, he actually did a lot of the training that I have gone through myself. Here's who I was in 2009. I was experiencing extreme chronic pain. I had been diagnosed with degenerative disc disease, arthritis, bone spurs, fibromyalgia, and I was starting to become obese. I had depression. I was diagnosed with PTSD. And then fibroid tissues. So I had a whole ball of things going on, and all I could think about was how much pain my body was in. It was like this vicious cycle. And on top of that, my world around me, which included my relationship with, at that time, was my boyfriend of 14 years, and then my 4 sons. And they were, of course, teenagers, and I failed as a mom. I knew I failed. So I lived a life from the context that I was a failure, I wasn't good enough, and I'm being punished for that by watching my kids get into trouble. My relationship, we were barely there. We were like roommates. There was no passion, no intimacy, no romance. So I started reading all these books and just kept reading as much as I could, and got so consumed with it, it helped kind of take me out of my world of what was going on and avoid it. Nothing changed. And then I got to a point where I'm okay, I've got to do something. And so I went and started attending this non-denominational church. And after a few services that I had attended, this man came over to me and put his hand on my shoulder, and I'm bawling because the service touched me. And he places his hand on my shoulder, just looks me dead in the eyes, and he says, "You're going to be okay." And
it's amazing when you start speaking about these and you get the experience. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Hey, before that, I could already tell you're well and truly grounded.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So I just, I ended up asking this gentleman, what is this? And he says, why don't you attend an introduction and you can learn more there. So it turns out this man was a doctor, which was even better for me. And I saw something possible in the introduction, which was the possibility of a new relationship with the man that I was with. And then a new relationship with myself, because I felt very small in life. And so I registered that night. I had no money. My friend loaned me the money, and then she also registered, so we help each other out, and then I paid her back the money. So 3 months later, here I am sitting in the Landmark Forum, and on Saturday, my forum leader, Barry Terry, was talking about the vicious cycle and the hidden context and stuff, and the freedom from the past. And the night before, I had created the possibility of being courageous and honest. And it was like a ton of bricks that hit me. And I remember, like, oh my gosh, I know this, like, I'm the cause of my life. I'm the cause of the matter of how my life is right now. And all this pain, everything. So on my break, I went to the back of the room and I'm like, I think I know what I need to do. And this girl says, what? And I said, do you think it'd be okay if I just write him a letter? And she's like, oh, I'm sure it's probably okay. And this guy was standing on the side here, and he says, here, let me help you with this conversation. He said, can I talk with you? And I said, sure. Like, I'm open for anything. And he said, do you want to pause this? My little one's screaming in the background. He says, I want you to consider that you wouldn't want him to write you a letter. And I said, probably not. He said, how would you want to hear it? And I said, well, I'd want to be told to my face. He goes, exactly. So what do you want to do about this? And I said, I will call him. He said, okay. So here's the call. I told my boyfriend of 14 years that I had cheated on him 9 years previously and had an abortion with our first child. You can about imagine, and like, I was coach, and he told me, step into his shoes and get where he will be coming from about this and just be with it. And I didn't know what he meant by be with it and all this stuff. I just was like, okay, I just know I need to do this. And I didn't know that the night before I had created the possibility of being courageous. And it took all the courage to do that, because I didn't know what the outcome was going to be. I just knew I needed to do it. And I had this strong desire to get it over with. So he is on the other end screaming and yelling, and he's mad, and they're calling me to come back in. I'm like, ah! And I was like, I got to go. And he hung up on me. So I as I'm walking into the forum, I'm bawling. And this lady says, are you okay, honey? And I drop to my knees, and she lifts me up. And she said, whatever just happened, I promise it'll be okay. She said, you get up there in that stage. And I did. I got up there on that stage, and the coach everybody was just in awe, and it got super silent. And the forum leader said, I cannot say to you enough how courageous that was. And you were not the only one in this room who just did, you just like had the forum happen for everybody. And I promise you, there are people who have either cheated or cheating today or thinking about cheating. And then he coached me on how to be with him. By Tuesday night, my now husband asked me to marry him. And it was the first time, like, trying to do it on, like here, or Facebook Live, I should say. And the ego, or my mind, was, you're not getting this right. This is not right. And I had to keep, thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing. So yeah, you're right. I was avoiding looking bad. So that is so good. That's what I'm talking about. It's all about who we are being in being. And when the humanness comes in, it's obvious. People can sense that stuff. Yeah, I was so nervous about that video. And because I had been coming from the story that I'm not worthy. And that's not in alignment with what I've been up to. And so I'm real. I'm a mother of 5, and all I can say is that it is possible to have freedom from the constraints of your past. I know
Okay.
this is a fact.